What's going on, everyone? My name is Priyar Juthani. I am an MD/MBA student here at Yale, doing videos all about medicine and productivity. And you can tell that latter topic is very interesting to me because today's video is all about Productivity 3.0 and different tips and tricks that I've learned the hard way in terms of managing my time and just basic things that I think can be very helpful. So Productivity 3.0 is different than what you may traditionally learn, but to know the differences, it's very important to start from the beginning. So what is Productivity 1.0 and then kind of working our way up? So Productivity 1.0 is what I like to define as the basics of productivity, the growth mindset, the fact that we can actually get better at time management. This is something that I think was happening early on, maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, as we started getting these basic books out about the growth mindset and understanding the fact that we actually can make better use of our time. Productivity 2.0 was then this aspect that we can now develop. Now that we know time can be managed more effectively, what are some of the ways to go about doing that? And for example, there are so many proven techniques now, such as the Pomodoro technique, getting enough sleep, to-do lists, prioritization, and even waking up early. Those are all tips and tricks that have been made through behavioral psychology and helped us ultimately manage that time better. So Productivity 1.0 was more just understanding that time can be managed. Productivity 2.0 was this entire onslaught of books and resources and information that said, hey, here are the ways that we can make that happen. Productivity 3.0, and this is just the way I kind of break it down in my head. For me, Productivity 3.0 is kind of combining 1.0 and 2.0 and adding in this realistic perception of human beings and the fact that we are not machines. And even though ideally it would be lovely to have this perfect list and try to manage my time and get everything done right away, for me personally, it doesn't happen that way. The other thing is also that I have constraints. I'm a human. Things happen. And also, because I'm not a machine, I have feelings. And those feelings can sometimes make me less productive than I'd like. And I kind of have to find ways to get around that. So Productivity 3.0 is this aspect of balancing the 2.0 techniques with the aspects of what it means to be human. More importantly, I also see a lot of productivity centered around people who are very like type A individuals, people who are very regimented, who thrive off of schedules, who thrive off of, setting tasks for themselves. But I'm not actually a type A individual at all. If anything, I'm the exact opposite of a type A. Like it's literally 1 a.m. right now, and I didn't even plan on filming this video until like about 15 minutes ago. I'm more spontaneous. I like to fill things in as times go on. And I think Productivity 3.0 is understanding that aspect, that we don't actually all need to have perfect schedules, but we can still be very productive, which I personally think I have been able to slowly accomplish over the last year, if not throughout my medical school. So with that being said, here are just a bit more insight into Productivity 3.0. I think productivity has been very idealized, and that was the Productivity 2.0. And this combined with social media has made us make it seem like we're living in a society where everyone is doing way more than us, way more efficiently than us, and in a way that's better than us. And that's a problem because I think people don't acknowledge that, and that actually leads to their own detriment because they feel like they're not good enough. Productivity 3.0 is intended to be a more realistic realm of productivity that combines the basics of psychology in my head, using what I know about psychology, with this aspect of being human and ultimately being productive based on those facets. There's 3 foundational principles I'm going to talk about today. The first one is about leveraging deadlines. The second one is about being okay with flexibility and filling in the gaps. And the third part is this aspect of being human and how we can even leverage this aspect of being human to get more done. Because guess what? We aren't machines. But I personally think that because we're not machines, we can actually get more done in different ways than maybe machines can. So let's jump in to each of these concepts. So let's talk about this first aspect of leveraging deadlines. As you know, this is one of my first tenets of Productivity 3.0. And what does leveraging deadlines mean? Well, if you've read any psychology research from Dan Kahneman and multiple other behavioral economists, you know that human beings work really well at particularly the beginning and endings of tasks. We don't work well, but we also tend to remember that the most. And the reason for this is, I don't actually know the entire reason for this, but all I know is that personally, when you assign me a task, my attention to that task usually peaks when I get assigned that task and right before it's due, because that's usually when I get it done, right? And because of that, I realize I am the most prolific and productive when I have deadlines. And particularly, what I did is I now leveraged that deadline aspect and I create more deadlines. So, for example, if I'm working on a big project, I know for a fact that if I just wait on a 1 month project, I'm not going to get nearly as much done as if it broke that 1 month project down into 4 1 week meetings and I laid down specific to do tasks that I needed to do each week. And believe it or not, by having those meetings 4 times a month, I am going to do work, and albeit it'll be right before the meeting, I'm at least doing work that I would not have done until the end of the month, and now I'm doing it throughout the month. And by doing that, I'm leveraging this aspect of basic human psychology, which is, hey, I have to hold myself accountable tomorrow, and because of that, I should get this done, right? So that's kind of what I'm saying. We need to increase the deadlines we impose on ourselves. This doesn't mean having meetings every day. The one thing I usually do is if I know a project is particularly important, I try to set weekly meetings with people who are helping me get that project done. And if I know it needs to be done by January, for example, I'll set 4 meetings in December and trying to break up my goals, each of those 4 meetings. And believe it or not, it actually makes things much easier because then I know I at least have a week between each meeting. It gives me a bit of time to sit on my juices, let it procrastinate, let it stir in my head for a bit. And then right before the first meeting, I get a bit done. Right before the second meeting, I get a bit done. And I kind of keep going. And that actually helps me get my work done in a much more effective way than I thought was possible. You may be wondering, hey, Priyak, I don't actually have things that require meetings. Well, guess what? You can actually impose deadlines on yourself. And it doesn't always have to be through meetings. You can also impose deadlines on yourself by almost like infiltrating yourself in an email. So one way to do that is by responding to an email and say, hey, I'll get back to you within 5 days. And when you say that you're going to get back to someone within 5 days, you have now imposed a limit or a deadline on yourself. And because of that, you will likely do things leading up to that deadline. And so this is just one of those ways that I've realized I can leverage Productivity 3.0 because I don't always need to have a set deadline, but I can actually break things down weekly by having these meetings. Now, the second tenet of Productivity 3.0 is mentioned right here, being okay with flexibility. So what does this mean? Productivity, in my eyes, has been very focused on type A individuals. Every single video I've seen out there is like, to be productive, you need to be regimented, you need to study 8 hours a day, you need to not be distracted, you can only take small breaks. And while it has worked for me sometimes, that way of thinking, most of the time, guess what? I am very sporadic. I'm random. My mind is all over the place. Sometimes I may have a plan and my brain says, I don't want to be doing that right now. And because of that, I think Productivity 3.0 needs to leverage the different personality types and understand that not everyone functions in this very regimented way. I definitely do not. And so because of that, the one thing I have done is I have this list of flexible tasks that I know that, hey, even if I don't want to do everything in a regimented way, there are certain tasks that I can do at any point in time that don't require too much commitment, and I can actually fit in throughout my day that allow me to get a little bit more variety and allow my brain to kind of get out of the jargon that is consistently being thrown at it, right? So for example, what are some flexible tasks? Here, there's things like email, responding to texts, writing descriptions for my upcoming YouTube videos, filming my upcoming YouTube videos, maybe even drafting some scripts for my upcoming YouTube videos. These are all things I can do in bits and pieces throughout the day, and I don't need to have any set agenda for them. Another thing I often do in my flexible time is plan my schedule for tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow it's raining and I need to find the best time to run, things like that. So let me now show you an example of kind of how I put my schedule with this Productivity 3.0 framework with flexibility. So here is an example of my general schedule. You can see, like, for example, I had a ton of meetings on this day. And while meetings are great, you also notice that my brain was like, dude, there's so much random shit in these meetings. Sometimes they'll end early and I have so much other stuff to do. So how do I get more done? By having set work hours and having a flexible list of items, you'd be so surprised, but I actually was able to put in a bunch of small tasks throughout the day, and by the time the day was over, I had not just finished each of those meetings and each of the tasks I had leveraged within those meetings, kind of with that first part of productivity, leveraging deadlines, but within each of those meetings, whenever it ended a bit early or whenever someone showed up a bit late, I was responding to an email. I finished some work text in the middle. I created the thumbnail. I wrote the description for a video. When someone was late, I was able to get caught up on the schedule for tomorrow and making sure everything was planned. You'll see that this is actually not type A at all. My brain is almost always all over the place, and whenever someone's late, guess what I do? I go to my flexible list, I say, brain, what do you want to do from this list right now? Pick a random thing, whatever it is. You want to respond to someone's text, do that. Do something, right? Don't just sit there. And by leveraging that like very sporadic mind, I'm leveraging my like non-type A personality to get a bit more done. And I think that's definitely helped me a lot. Now, that last part of Productivity 3.0 was this aspect of being human and acknowledging that we are not machines. And so even though we may have a perfect schedule, I know people all the time who say, dude, you just got to sit down and study 8 hours a day, do it every day, all day. You can't burn out. It doesn't happen for me at all. That's not how I function at all. I know some people can. I'm not like that. So the third facet of Productivity 3.0 is, I think, the most important one, which is this aspect of being human and understanding that you're never going to likely finish your entire to-do list. Guess what? No one usually does. Even the most prolific and productive individuals on this planet likely don't finish their work. And you have to just acknowledge that we're living in a world now where everyone just flaunts the best version of themselves online. I think I'm guilty of it too. And because of that, it's very easy to fall prey to the fact that you're not doing enough. But that's not true. And I think Productivity 3.0 needs to encourage and understand that none of us are going to be nearly as prolific as the most ideal version of ourselves wants to be. But it's not about that. It's about understanding, acknowledging that, and always trying to be better. The more important part of that, about all of this, is being very clear about what your priorities are and focusing on those priorities. Don't disregard whatever those priorities are in the long run. So if you know personal health means a lot to you, exercising means a lot to you, family means a lot to you, maybe studying means a lot to you, well then guess what? Every day in your flexible tasks, you need to make sure that those things come up repeatedly. So you are consistently utilizing your values to guide your work and not vice versa. You don't want to have your work supersede your values. You want your values to be guiding your work. The financial way that I think of this last rule of Productivity 3.0, in finance, people talk about something called net present value. It means what is the lifetime value of an investment. I think of productivity as a lifetime value as well. And I think of often those type A individuals as being very regimented and they always want to get the biggest bang for their buck. Us non-type A individuals are not like that. There are some days that maybe I'll be worth $1 and other days maybe I'll be worth $1 million. And I have just learned to be okay with the fact that, hey, if I don't feel good today, I'm going to take the L and be totally fine not doing anything today, because when I feel better down the road, it's going to be that much better for me because I'll be able to do the things that I want to do with the values prioritized that I want to prioritize. Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. Don't let this ideal notion of what it means to be the perfect productive person get in the way of you being at least a good productive person and working to be better. So with all that being said, those are my 3 tenets of Productivity 3.0. This aspect of imposing extra deadlines on yourself through meetings, this aspect of finding flexible time in your schedule and squeezing in tasks, and this last aspect of understanding and being human and acknowledging that we're not all type A individuals. And many of us, and actually all of us, probably won't get as much done as we think, but it's all about consistent improvement and prioritizing what values mean a lot to you and making sure you know what those values are. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like, comment, share, subscribe. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.